would you go back and tell yourself in 2005 when you're first starting out and dealing with head injuries?
Number one, I would say it's not worth it. If I was that guy, Coach, I would get hit. My head, the entire stadium is spinning around, and I would go back into the game. It's not worth it, Maria. And I would implore these young men, don't go back on that football field if you get hurt, because I don't want them to have to feel like me and so many other former players that had to deal with concussions, whether it's depression, anxiety, paranoia, broken relationships, not being able to communicate with your spouse and things like that. It's a lot. CTE takes you to a dark place, and I want these players to know it's not worth it. Please take care of yourself. Don't depend on the NFL. Don't depend on anybody. If something's wrong with your head, report it.
Rodney Harrison with some words of wisdom last night on Football Night in America. Look, he played his entire career before the NFL had its concussion epiphany in October of 2009, forced to go to a congressional hearing. The commissioner, D. Smith, the head of the union, who just kind of arrived on the scene, having to answer some tough questions about the NFL's rules as it relates to concussion and return to play, forced some real changes to be made in the decades since then. Plus, there's been some refinements, Myles. There's been some efforts to make the game safer and safer, and that's kind of where we are. And the Tua Tagovailoa experience from last Sunday and then Thursday night has brought this back to the forefront. Is the concussion protocol where it needs to be? What changes need to be made? And what obligation do players have? Where is that line? Because they want to play football. They want to go do things. And this occurred to me last night. You know, we all go to the doctor. We all have the doctor tell us things we shouldn't do. Sometimes we listen, sometimes we don't. That's kind of what they're telling football players. The difference is there's an apparatus for enforcing the doctor's advice when it comes to a football player. The team and the league can be told to tell the player he's not playing. They can't tell me to quit, drinking as much as maybe I drink or smoking as much as maybe I smoke, cigars only. But, I'm policing myself there. When it comes to football players, if there's medical advice, there's an easy way for it to be translated to action. And they're trying to get to the point where the doctors aren't just checking boxes to say when a player can play football again, but treating them as patients and giving them real medical advice on whether or not it's in their best interest to return to a situation where they may suffer another head injury.
Yeah, and that's really, really, really important. I think what Rodney Harrison said there was great. I really do. And I don't want to watch a sport where players are endangering themselves unnecessarily. And I mean, I guess you could say that about the entire sport of football, but when you suffer a head injury, it's serious. It is a serious trauma that is going on inside our brains, and our brains are everything to us. We can't communicate, can't live if our brains aren't right. So I really applaud him for what he said there. And I really hope that there are more players that really start to think about, okay, am I not feeling right? And if I'm not feeling right, then I need to report that, because I don't want to say it's entirely incumbent on the players to say stuff, because it's really not. But like when you say you go to the doctor, right? You go to the doctor and you describe symptoms that you have. So if the doctor hears what the symptoms are, then that doctor can better diagnose you. So there was a player for the Rams this week, one of their offensive linemen, who self-reported that he was feeling foggy, and then he was placed into the concussion protocol. That's one thing that I hope we continue to see, because players really need to be aware of how they feel, and they need to express that to the appropriate entities so that they're not being put on the field at risk of suffering another concussion, which can be extremely serious.
Second impact syndrome, a term that was trending on Thursday night after Tua Tagovailoa's head struck the turf and he assumed the fencing posture and was taken off on a stretcher. Second impact syndrome can be fatal. It's when there's a second head injury before the first one has fully cleared. High school players will have a head injury, return to a game, and have a second one, and it happens every year where high school players die. That's what the NFL and every level of the sport should be trying to avoid. But Myles, the other side of this is it's easy to say, and Rodney did it in a very passionate way, report your symptoms if you have them. It's not worth it. It's not worth it when you're that guy who's playing football, who's trying to preserve roster spot, paycheck, what do they say? The greatest ability is availability. You got to be on the field. Tua was never going to say anything that would have potentially caused anyone to say you shouldn't play. He's going to say whatever he has to say to play. Only a small handful of players in the NFL have the luxury of tapping out and knowing they're not going to get Wally pipped. Everybody else has to worry about the next man up taking your job. Younger, cheaper, as good or better, you're gone. Ultimate meritocracy. And that's inherent to the sport. That's not changing. There's nothing they can do. You can't mandate to teams, hey, when this guy comes back from a concussion, he must be reinstated to his position as a starter. No matter how well the other guy played, you must put him back in the lineup. The Wally Pipp rule would not work in the NFL. That's the problem. That's why guys will keep it to themselves. But when it's undeniable, when it's guy's head hits ground and then he's falling down when he gets up, that's where the doctors can mobilize and act like doctors and treat the players not like football players, but like patients. Again, I said this last night on Football Night in America. The union wants to get this to a point where it's not checklist, check this box, guy can play again. No. This is a patient that we are caring for. Is it in his best interest as a human being to go on the football field and play football? That's the question. And Myles, because of that, gross motor instability, if you demonstrate that, you're done. You're done for the day. No exception, no loophole. And, you know, it's funny. And sometimes you just need to take a step back and look at a situation. And I had this epiphany yesterday talking to some people connected to the situation. Last Sunday, Tua hits his head, stumbling, wobbling. Surely he's done for the day. He comes back and plays. Why is he playing? Well, they determined it was his back, not his head. And I, along with everyone else, was like, well, okay, I guess if it's his back, I guess. Well, even if it was his back, what's he doing in the game? He had a back injury that gave him gross motor instability. That's the union's reaction to this. What the hell is he doing in the game with a back injury that causes him to wobble and be falling down to the point where a teammate has to hold him up? Whatever condition, whatever it is that causes you to do this, you're done for the day. Whether you like it or not, you're done. Whatever the injury, head or back, you are done. If this happens to you on a football field, you're not in a position to protect yourself. You're done. So that's why the NFLPA and the NFL have agreed that they haven't come out and said it, but the gross motor instability rule is going to be changed. So there's no exception. There's no loophole. If you show that, you are not returning to play. And that's the obvious no-brainer. But see, that's what makes me, kind of shakes your faith in the whole protocol. When there's something that obvious that gets missed, what the hell else is wrong with this system that we don't know about, Myles?
I guess that's true, Mike. I the whole week I just kept thinking the first rule of being a doctor in the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm. That's just what I kept thinking throughout the entire weekend. It's like, how is it that somebody can show that, go back into the locker room, get examined, and by not one, but multiple doctors, and they say, okay, back, and then he gets placed on the field. And I don't know. It's my thought process is, well, if those doctors are examining him, the first rule is do no harm. So how could they send him back on the field if they really believe that he should not be back on the field? And you go through the rest of the week and things continue to come out. And it's like, how in the world did this catastrophic failure happen? It feels like, to me, that's what this was, a catastrophic failure. And it could have been so much worse for Tua Tagovailoa. And frankly, we don't know how much worse it can be because it's a brain injury and he suffered a concussion in Cincinnati. And I go through that whole week and I'm still really astonished because, like I said, the first rule is do no harm.
The NFL is fortunate. It got its worst-case scenario lesson without having the worst-case scenario unfold. And the NFL, as I explained in Playmakers, and I've been saying for years, notoriously reactive, not proactive. There will be issues hiding in plain sight that they don't do anything about until it blows up in their face. And then they say, oh, maybe we should do something about that. This gave them a way to fix a problem before something serious happens to one of the players. Now, it did become a major controversy, and it still is. But it looks like they are going to make the fix. And credit to the NFLPA, firing, as they have the right to do, the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant who was involved in this case last Sunday, reportedly, and this is something that NFL media added to the story on Saturday night, because the UNC didn't understand his role, which makes me wonder what kind of interaction was happening between the UNC and the team doctor in making the decision to let Tua play. And when they interviewed the UNC, he was hostile. That's not the way to play this game, doctor. Thanks, doctor. Thanks for nothing, doctor. We'll let you go tend to your other patients now. God help them. We don't want you tending to our players any longer. And one thing I'm very fascinated about, Myles, and I can't get to the bottom of this, it's required by the protocol, obviously, that the team physician in the UNC look at the film from the game, look at the video, which we all saw. You look at that as part of your decision-making process. I still have yet to have anyone tell me conclusively that they looked at the video. Wouldn't that be something if they didn't look at the video? If that's the end result of this, that they failed to look at the video? Again, I'm not saying they didn't, but I've yet to have anyone to tell me conclusively that they did. Holy crap, if that happened. The two most important people didn't see what the rest of us saw that made us say, there's no way he's coming back today.
The other reported detail in that just astonishes me is the several mistakes that were made by the UNC. And I just, again, the first rule of being a doctor is do no harm. How can you possibly make several mistakes in that scenario? I don't understand. You're talking about somebody's brain. It's somebody's brain. How can you make several mistakes? I mean, this absolutely should end in a lawsuit, in my opinion. You cannot do that as a doctor, as a medical professional. That's shameful. It's absolutely shameful when you're trying to protect somebody in their life. Not just their livelihood, it's their life.
He's now out of the picture, and the good news is the NFL and the NFLPA are working on it, and I'm sure there'll be developments as the week unfolds. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.